you keep the hits going, Matt, because as you said at the beginning, I guess the second two belong to me technically, but they kind of belong to both of us. So
Yeah. Well,
as
this one
does
kind of
this one.
belongs,
Yeah,
as does
this one
this
does
one.
too.
Yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
I guess the Marat was the only one that was full blown me. But anyway, this is Fountains of Wayne, Utopia Parkway, which comes in at number 1050 in the 1990s on Best Ever Albums, number 92 in 1999, number 6497 of all time. It's Fountains of Wayne's third highest rated album on Best Ever Albums, behind 1996's self-titled album and 2003's Welcome Interstate Managers, which had the big song Stacy's Mom on, which I'm sure most people, while you might not have heard of Marat, you've definitely heard of Stacy's Mom. And Fountains of Wayne ranked number 1,268 of overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums. Do you want me to go first on this one?
Yeah, go for it.
Or do you want to do it? Okay. So this is this album also reminds me of late 90s Philly. My brother introduced me to this record, and I loved it from the moment that I heard it. It's got, like, even opens up its opening track. It's like, this sounds like the Cars. Okay, I'm listening, right? I love the Cars. And this is just power pop, right? Straight up power pop, 14 songs, 45 minutes of pretty much one power pop, very hooky, hook-oriented album. Obviously, Adam Schlesinger is the main songwriter, along with Chris Collingwood, and Adam Schlesinger is the one that did the That Thing You Do, which I guess I forgot, man. That album, that movie came out like before this. I think that was like 1997, I think, or 98, and so that's kind of how maybe he first started, or one of the first songs that he did that became well known. And to me, this is a fun record. This album gets stuck in my head. There are songs after hearing like Amity Gardens or A Fine Day for a Parade, those songs in particular, for whatever reason, after I hear this record, those songs go back and forth like over and over in my head, almost to the point where I'm like, God, all right, stop. Like, it's almost like uninvited. It's like I can't do this hook in my head again. I'm just kind of driving myself nuts. This is kind of like it's a quasi concept record, it seems like, about just suburbia, right? Or just being a teenager in a suburban area. And they're from New York, maybe Long Island or something. I think Utopia Parkway is like a reference to an area in Queens, but they might be from Long Island. I'm not exactly sure where these guys are from, but definitely in the New York area. And it's not terribly complicated lyrically. It's like, hey, let's go to the laser show, and like, here's our prom theme, and it's going to be the last night that we're together like this. And red dragon tattoos. I'm getting a tattoo so a chick will dig me, and stuff like that. So it's very straight ahead, not terribly complicated lyrically. It's funny at times. It's also kind of very of its time, Red Dragon Tattoo, talking about, I got a tattoo, now I look like that guy from Korn, so there's some dated references in here, but, I remember when I first heard them, they kind of made me chuckle and stuff like that. So it's pretty consistent as far as I'm concerned. I do like the ballads. I think there's some really pretty songs like Fine Day for a Parade, Troubled Times I've always liked, Hat and Feet's a nice song, The Senator's Daughter's a nice kind of pretty closer. It loses a little bit of steam, I think. After, I don't know, maybe after Amity Gardens, like the last 4 or 5 tracks are maybe not as strong, I would say, as the beginning, but generally speaking, it's kind of right up my alley with that power pop, and just, it's a fun record, right? And so I'm here for that. But it's not terribly complicated. I think this is an album, I was much more excited to go back to Marat than I was to go back to Fountains of Wayne. Because I think at a certain point, music like this, it's only so far it can go. And once you've gone there for a while, and this album's, 25 plus years old, I don't know. There's a little bit of a replay. It's not like it's not replayable or re-listenable. It's just not, it's not as great today as it was when I heard it back in those years. I don't know. It's worn off its welcome a little bit, but generally speaking, it's still a very consistent album, and I enjoy it. Some thumbs up on it.
I am not as high on this album, Matt, if I'm being honest. I have nothing against...
That does not surprise me.
I have nothing against power pop. This... this music's a little Village of the Damned for me. It sounds like the music playing in like an Abercrombie and Fitch in the late 90s and early 2000s to me. There's nothing technically wrong with it. In fact, the songs display a remarkable consistency at getting to a melodic hook over and over again. If you like drumming that's like hi-hat, like, but like in choruses where they go on the drum beat, like it kind of has a little bit of like AI generated rock feel to me, and that I almost can predict exactly where the songs are going to go despite not having a background in music theory. I'm never really surprised by any of the choruses. They really, they hit exactly as you expect. And some of what I like about music is when I'm taken off the beaten path, there's something surprising, or there's like some heart added into it. I know some of these songs are, you're right, Matt. It definitely is a concept album about suburbia. And I even played with is sort of what they're going for with that icy feel, like that it could be playing in a mall. And they even have a song about malls, right, on this album. I'm like, is that kind of what they're going for? So I should process it as a concept album. And so if they were going for that, then they succeeded to some degree, because
they were. I did read too that that was like, there was other songs that they had that they decided that like might have been really good on this, but they decided not to do it because it didn't fit in the theme.
Well, and that I suspected that a little bit, and that elevates this album a little bit for me, because thematically it really works in that sense that you get the feel. I do in the lyrics get the feeling there's some tongue-in-cheek knowingness and even a little bit of subversion of like, we're going to do rock that could easily be played in these spaces, but you're not 1,000% sure how they feel about being products of these spaces. It's in some ways, even though it doesn't sound like it, it covers some of the same ground that like Subdivisions by Rush does. Like, we're a product of this, but also we've moved away from it as well, and can kind of tell you what it's like. And it's not a celebration as much as it's a part rejection, part subversion of the ideal. So I did get that coming through. There's songs like Denise and the song that I talked about, The Valley of the Malls, which I like a little bit more. I do think though that they're with power pop, the thing that differentiates power pop that I really like from power pop that I don't like as much is the heart. Like, does there seem to be an emotional resonance in it? And sometimes when it's missing, it's a little paint by numbers music, I'd say.
Yeah.
The first song, it's funny that you heard The Cars. The first thing I heard on this is, this is like Matthew Sweet. So I can see why Matt likes this album so much, because there's a lot of what like Matthew Sweet does.
For sure.
Yeah, on this.
He's probably got more. I think he's got a lot more substance in his lyrics.
Well, and that's what I was going to get at. He there's a little bit more running the gamut of emotions.
But I remember you also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when we covered Girlfriend, God, that was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, there was one Matthew Sweet album I liked quite a bit, and there was one Matthew Sweet album I did not like. But Altered Beast was the one I think I didn't.
Was the second one.
I didn't like as much. And
yeah,
I think
and that was a
Girlfriend I liked a lot more.
Yeah, that was a bonus episode I think that Josh and I did, and you listened to it kind of on your own. But like, I remember when we covered Girlfriend, I think you said something about like Matthew Sweet's choruses were not as bombastic and hooky as you would like them to be. Yep. And then I think maybe
that holds here,
said, like, as opposed to like Fountains of Wayne, Stacy's Mom, which has like the big hook. So I think that it might be a little bit hookier. Yeah,
it does. But is there any hook on this album that's as big as Stacy's Mom?
No, no.
I think. Gosh, I'm trying to think. Yeah, no, there's nothing I could think of that's even in that ballpark. There's hooks, and probably Denise is the one that if I were to go back,
that was a single, yeah.
And if I were, I didn't know what singles were up, but if I were
Red Dragon Tattoo's got a decent chorus, but
it's kind of like a meander. It's a meandering chorus, though. You know what I mean? It's like Red Dragon Tattoo. You know, it kind of gets into it. Where Stacy's Mom just hits you
Yep.
over the head. It's also very much traditional songwriting. Like,
Yeah.
it's a very clearly defined set of lyrics, pre-chorus, bridge. Like, you can almost like write it out, kind of like how
Yes.
Max Martin's pop songs, are almost mathematical in terms of the precision of how many words and how many beats are in each song. There is a little bit of that with I always Adam
Schlesinger.
Schlesinger. That's in all the music he writes, right? He's like kind of a genius at being able to write a certain type of song. He's sort of similar. I'm going to see Goldfinger tomorrow, Matt, a band I do
Oh,
like.
cool.
But I definitely think people could criticize Goldfinger for some of the same things that I'm criticizing Adam Schlesinger for here, because what John Feldman's so good at doing is writing a certain type of song with this big anthemic chorus, right? And like, I think it's just the vibes from that click with me, but I could very easily turn it around on that, a group I do like. So that's where like personal preference and just that indescribable, like, what do you like, kind of comes in. So this album's, once again, it's a thumbs in the middle for me. Kind of like in the first one, there's nothing wrong with it, but there is a little bit of disposableness to this for me. It's kind of one of those albums that if somebody put it back on, it would not be unpleasant. And I'd be like, yeah, go ahead and put that on. I kind of like Fountains of Wayne, and I would do it, but also I would never, like, I think voluntarily seek out this album either, if that makes sense. So
No, it definitely does, and I feel like this album, of all the ones that we covered, I went back to this one the least amount. I listened to this like, I don't even know if I listened to this intently one time, because all the other ones I did. But I'm so familiar with this, and part of that is because I've owned it and I've listened to it plenty of times. But it's also just like, this is not a hard album to understand what's going on or to get into. It's like you listen to it once and it's like that's what it was, right? Like a lot of times I'll talk about a record. I need to kind of listen to this again and remind myself what's going on here and stuff like that. And that's not really this. And so
it is kind of amazing they didn't have more hits.
I know. I mean, like I said, Denise, there was a video for that. I think
I listened to a lot of music at that time, and honestly, outside of that thing you do, which is absolutely, even though it's not Fountains of Wayne, it is Fountains of Wayne.
Yeah.
But outside of that song, and certainly, of course, Stacy's Mom, they just never tracked for me. And it wasn't really until he passed away untimely that I kind of realized how much he was esteemed, right? As kind of like the guru of writing a certain type of power pop song. And went back, it was like, oh wow, they really had a lot of influence.
Yeah, and he did a lot of stuff because Fountains of Wayne has like what 4-5 albums.
I think
maybe,
so, yeah, something like that.
So they it's not like that, but he spent a lot of time. Adam Schlesinger spent a lot of time, writing for other people and writing with other people.
Yep.
And so he's kind of like, and a lot of other artists, really kind of connected with him, and he like with films and and TV shows and stuff like that. So he's kind of, in some ways, he was like an artist's artist and or a songwriter because there was a lot of work that he did with other people. But in some ways, it's like, how is this not bigger? But I don't know. It's one of those questions that maybe it was the timing, but I don't know.
I go back to the thing when we talked about, like, when I talked about why did certain third wave ska bands break and other ones didn't, and my take was that the handsomer ones broke through, right? Like No Doubt had a hottie, right? Blink-182 were some good looking guys and stuff, and I do think sometimes it's as simple as that. And like, not knocking Adam Schlesinger, but he looks like a dude, right? Compared to like Stephen Jenkins of Third Eye Blind, or Adam Levine or somebody.
But like, what about Weezer? Did they just have better songs? Is it just like the Blue Album was better? I mean, Rivers Cuomo was kind of like a nerdy guy too, right? Like, I think the drummer from Weezer, they were all kind of like nerdy guys.
I think the original. That's a great question, Matt. Let me think. I think the reason Weezer originally connected was they leaned into the "we are dorks." You know what I'm saying? Like we even called like nerd rock, right? And so the need to be rock stars, right? They kind of took off the plate, right? And they're like, oh, they can be rock stars, but in like a different way. They're like anti-rock stars. Does that make sense? And
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know enough about Fountains of Wayne to know, like, did they not, if they leaned into that more, would that make a difference? I don't know. I mean, they didn't really get a whole lot of radio play. They didn't get a whole lot of MTV until Stacy's Mom came on, you know? And even then, it was just one song. There was no other song off of Welcome Interstate Managers that what was the follow-up single to that? Nobody knows, right? And it's not just because they didn't. It's not just because that was by far the best song, but there were plenty of other songs that could have been hits. So I don't know. I mean, it just. But Weezer kind of came up because they're similar, like Denise type of riff and a guitar set. That's a little bit of a Weezer sound too. And what's their both '90s, right? Both mid late '90s bands. I don't know, but catchy songs, right? I can't figure out the formula.
It's sometimes it doesn't make sense, right? It just isn't. Yeah. It's not to be. I'm also laughing because I'm looking at Adam Schlesinger was born in Montclair, New Jersey, which is like definitely, as a New Jersey, what I think of as like the North Jersey suburbs, right? Like kind of like you live in Montclair, New Jersey, if you have a good amount of money and you're trying to like be New York adjacent without being in New York, right? So it gives a little bit added color to the album, a little bit. I also, it seems that instead of necessarily doing albums, a lot of what Adam Schlesinger did was just film scores, just tons and tons of film scores, along the way, and TV as well.
Yes, and he was in another band called Ivy.
Yes. I love Ivy. You know, with the French lead singer.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that band's fantastic. I had no idea he was in that band, Matt.
Yeah.
So I it's funny. I'm more familiar with Ivy than I am with Fountains of Wayne, outside of Stacy's Mom.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I think I remember you saying that. I don't really know Ivy, so oddly enough, I never really listened to them, but Dominique Durand is the female, I believe.
I think you'd like them, Matt. Yeah? I think we're covering. I think I stuck them in an album review in the 2000s in one of our episodes, so we will cover them.
All right. Well, there you go. Yeah, because they've got Long Distance, Guest Room, In This Clear. They've got 3 albums.
We're covering Long Distance.
Long Distance. Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's a 2000, so that's probably coming up.
It is
in a not too distant future. So there you go. But yeah, I get it. It's and I even kind of felt a little bit of that too. It's like I don't know. I feel like and actually it's just going to lead right into the next segment that we're doing, which Isaac Hayes is up next. But like I'll save my take for that. But I it's not that my musical tastes are changing. I think they're expanding. And I think stuff that like the lanes that I have been in, comfortably, it's not that I don't like them anymore. It's that maybe I don't like them as much as I used to, or maybe they're too familiar and I'm getting more interested in stuff that's not as familiar. That's still very much in a lane that I'm comfortable in. But I think that this album this time around suffered a little bit from being even though I was very familiar with Marab. Marab's sound is one that I don't know is a little bit more timeless for me than maybe this is. I don't know, but I can kind of see how you're lukewarm on it. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, but I once again I am glad we listened to it, because I do think Fountains of Wayne are one of those bands that probably does not get enough of a look in terms of the effects, right, that they had in music and in doing a certain type of music well.
Yeah.
In some ways, I always put them together with a band like Jimmy Eat World, in that they have this one huge single, right? That like everybody knows, and they have passionate fans. And I listen to them, and I don't always love everything they do, but I'm like, I can't believe this band wasn't bigger than they were. And then somebody goes, well, they have. And then in one case, it's Stacy's Mom or The Middle. And, people will joke and be like, they could live off that song for forever. Yeah. But like when you think of like Sugar Ray had 3 singles, right? And I'm not knocking Sugar Ray, but it's weird that like Sugar Ray would get 3, right? And like this, those bands would get 1, because there isn't a marked difference in ability, right? But
I don't know, man. That's a good question. Like this,
or that like Lit had 2 singles. You know what I mean? And once again, how did they get the second single, right? Where
there's lots of bands like that, and if we knew the formula for what made the band, but
a lot of it I just write down to like who knows what the A&R people competency of the A&R people, like,
Sure.
desire to do it. Like I said, how handsome are you?
Yeah.
Mark McGrath and the dude from Lit, right? Like, certainly had like crossover appeal, right, to like women
Maybe
and
more
stuff. So
charisma.
maybe they looked at them and said they're more sex symbols, or we can market them more. Um,
Well, the Sugar
because
Ray guy is definitely, he's got charisma all over the place. Like,
yeah,
he's a really interesting guy to listen to, and yeah,
yeah.
doesn't shy
Well,
away from
because
the camera.
remember, you said even Weezer, like Weezer kind of fell off the face of the earth, right? And then
They did.
they kind of inexplicably like reinvented themselves in the 2000s as a very different band.
I know.
So yeah, so I don't know. That's a whole different conversation than when we do
That's
the
a
Green
big
album.
essential question right there.
Yeah, when we do the Green album, I think we're gonna cover that. But anyway,
Yeah.
this one's a thumbs in the middle for me.
Yeah, I'm still thumbs up. I still enjoy. I love me some power pop, and I like. Don't get me wrong. Like, yes, it's more of a simple kind of sound, but at the same time, it's like it's still really hard to write catchy,
Oh yeah,
good songs, and with the harmonies and the production and all that stuff. So it's still to me, it's still a really well done musical album. I could definitely see how the lyrics are like, it's just goofy and whatever a lot of times and sentimental, but it's still catchy enough for me to give it a thumbs up for sure.
I actually didn't hate. I if you notice, I didn't really knock the lyrics on this out because I
Yeah.
understood what they were going for. They were painting a picture of alienation in suburbia, but not in like a whiny way, more in an observational way.
Yeah, that's fair.
And very much like aesthetically too, is what they were pointing out. Sort of the doldrums of not being in a dynamic environment. So
Right.
so I will correct there, and that my knock on this album is not the lyrics.
Okay.